Understanding the concept of individuals living in complete isolation without any access to technology is a challenge. As of 2024, there are only a handful of uncontacted native groups remaining in the world, yet none are as isolated as these 5 most isolated tribes. The Sentinelese. The Sentinelese, living on North Sentinel Island, are among the most isolated people globally. They prefer to avoid contact with outsiders and have a history of hostility towards anyone who approaches them. Their way of life revolves around hunting, gathering, and fishing. In 2018, an American missionary attempted to convert them to Christianity, but tragically lost his life in the process. This incident raised concerns about introducing diseases to which the Sentinelese have no immunity. Similarly, in 2006, 2 Indian fishermen were killed when their boat accidentally drifted to the island. The Sentinelese have consistently signaled their desire for isolation, likely due to their vulnerability to diseases from the outside world. They live in small groups and use primitive boats for fishing. Despite being often labeled as Stone Age, they adapt to modern materials found on the island. Past attempts to contact them have ended in tragedy. British endeavors in the late 1800s resulted in illness and death among the Sentinelese. In more recent times, Indian officials have made efforts to leave gifts for them, but have frequently encountered hostility. Presently, all visits to North Sentinel are illegal, with the Indian Coast Guard enforcing strict measures to prevent outsiders from getting too close. The Sentinelese continue to thrive in their self-sufficiency, and efforts to contact them have been abandoned to avoid causing harm. The Sentinelese people's isolation is a deliberate choice, rooted in their desire to protect themselves from outside influences. While their way of life may seem primitive to outsiders, it is a testament to their resilience and adaptability. Respecting their wish for isolation is crucial to preserving their unique culture and ensuring their continued well-being. The New Guinea tribes. The Korowai tribe, a recently discovered indigenous group nestled in the heart of Papua New Guinea, remained hidden from the rest of the world until the 1970s. For generations, they lived in isolation, unaware of the existence of societies beyond their own. Their discovery sparked intrigue and fascination among outsiders, eager to learn about this enigmatic tribe and their way of life. One of the most striking aspects of the Korowai's culture is their remarkable skill in constructing towering tree houses. These impressive structures, reaching heights of up to 140 feet, are ingeniously built using traditional techniques and materials sourced from the surrounding jungle. Sturdy stilts support the tree houses, providing protection against potential threats from rival villages. Accessible only by wooden ladders, these elevated dwellings offer safety and security amidst the dense foliage. The central pole of the tree houses is typically crafted from the sturdy trunk of a banyan tree, while the walls and floors are fashioned from the fibrous bark of the sago palm. Sago leaves form the roofing, providing shelter from the elements. To safeguard against the risk of fire, essential fire pits are strategically incorporated into the design, ensuring the safety of the inhabitants. The first documented encounter between the Korowai and the outside world occurred in 1974 when a group of Western scientists embarked on an expedition to the remote region. This historic meeting provided valuable insights into the tribe's culture and way of life. The scientists observed traditional practices such as fire-making and documented snippets of the Korowai language, offering a glimpse into their rich oral tradition. Historically, the Korowai tribe was known for their practice of cannibalism, rooted in their belief in malevolent spirits known as kakua. Although cannibalism has largely ceased, remnants of this tradition linger in the collective memory of the tribe. Some members still harbor suspicions of outsiders, fearing the presence of evil spirits. Despite the influence of Christianity introduced by missionaries in the late 1970s, traditional beliefs and rituals continue to hold sway among the Korowai. Witchcraft and animistic spirituality remain integral to their cultural identity, shaping their worldview and guiding their daily lives. Marriage customs within the tribe reflect their traditional values, with women typically married off in their early teenage years and men waiting until their 20s. Hunting, a vital aspect of Korowai life, is conducted using bows and arrows, serving both as a means of sustenance and a form of defense against intruders. The Brazilian tribes. The history of Brazil's indigenous peoples is very sad. Long ago, when European people came to Brazil in 1500, there were about 11 million indigenous people. They lived in many tribes. But when the Europeans came, diseases like flu, measles, and smallpox spread. These diseases killed almost 90% of the indigenous people in just 100 years. Many others died because they were made to work on rubber and sugarcane plantations. In the 1950s, there were very few indigenous people left. One important person said there might not be any left by 1980. On average, one tribe disappeared every year. A report in 1967 showed many terrible things done to indigenous people, like killing and stealing their land. There was one very bad event called the Massacre of the 11th Parallel. A rich man told his workers to attack an indigenous village with dynamite. Then, the workers went into the village and killed anyone left. But some good things happened too. People started an organization called Survival International in 1969 to help indigenous people. Even though more people were living in Brazil by the 1960s, the government started to cut down the forests in the Amazon. This made things worse for indigenous people, as they lost their homes and became sick from the new developments. In 1985, things changed. Brazil stopped being ruled by a military government, and a new law was made. But life is still hard for indigenous people. Even though there are about 1.7 million of them today, they only have a small part of Brazil's land. Most of this land is in the Amazon. Many tribes are struggling. Some, like the Guarani, have lost most of their land to farms and plantations. Others, like the Yanomami, live in a remote area in the Amazon. But they are still not safe from people trying to take their land. Some tribes have never met outsiders. There might be over 100 of these tribes living in the Amazon. They are very vulnerable because they don't have immunity to diseases like flu and measles. They live off the land, hunting and fishing for food. The land is very important to indigenous people. It is where they get their food, medicine, and shelter. They have deep connections to the land and believe in spirits that protect it. Despite the challenges they face, indigenous people in Brazil continue to fight for their rights and protect their way of life.